What's up, homies? Welcome, party people, and welcome to the Closing Paid Closer Framework Script Framework Breakdown. I'm going to give you all of my secrets and hacks today. But in reality, they're not secrets, they're not hacks. It's just the framework and the foundations I use to build out scripts. You know, well, I've used this on obviously my offer that I manage, and across many other offers at this point, which is really cool because I've been able to test it on many aspects, which has been proven to be very successful. This may be part one because it could go on for a while. And just so you guys are aware, I'll give you some examples today so you can kind of see what I'm thinking. But this is just to give you kind of the foundation, the framework, the structure, so that you can even take this flow diagram and then plug it into your own and then create your own. And I can help you with that, you know? So let me share my screen as we always do. Can you see my screen, John? Okay, so here's the framework. Looks pretty detailed and complicated, but it's not. Okay, so let's start at the top. The lead enters. Okay, whether it's through direct ads, it's cold email outreach, it's cold call, it's DM outreach, you know, you name it. Okay, so they come into the pipeline, and there's intros, and there's getting to know someone, and there's a bit of back and forth. Okay, and at this point we utilize icebreakers and humor. We don't like fake rapport at this point. We want to establish that we're not one of those sales guys. How's the weather there? Right. And when I say icebreakers and humor, I mean really subtle stuff, guys. So like, how are you, John? And he said, yeah, I'm great. How are you? It's like, I am incredible. I'm like a 12 out of 10 today. Where are you on that scale, John? Right? It's not even funny, but it works. Or, yeah, I'm great, John. Pretty much. I'm just trying to stay out of trouble. Ha ha ha. Right? Tiny little things like that. That's all you need. And then, do you mind if we get straight into things? And look, guys, I know I've even said this before, but I don't think it's needed. You don't have to do this whole, oh, I need to be really authoritative here. So, John, do you mind if we get into things? I've got another call in 45 minutes, right? I think it doesn't harm saying that kind of stuff, but it's like every time I watch it, I'm like, just comes across as like you're trying too hard. You know, you can easily just say, John, do you mind if we just get straight into it? Perfect. Okay. Really simple. And what we come down to now is what I call data collection, painting the picture. Okay. Now, for me to help you understand that, what people generally do on sales calls is they do the data collection and painting the picture within the main body of the script. And it really muddies the waters. It makes it confusing, and it also agitates the prospect. And the prospect also is used to this stuff. So when you start asking kind of financial questions in the main body of the script, they get agitated because they know what you're trying to do, which is fine, but you're doing what everyone else does, which is like you're asking financial questions so you can figure out how much to fucking sell them on, like whether you can sell them and also how much for, right? The prospect knows you're doing that. So they don't like to answer all those questions with that in mind. So it needs to be more subtle. So what I do is I remove all the kind of financial painting the picture questions. We put them at the start and we keep them away from the main body of the script here. And so what we want to do is get a financial understanding, of course. Right? You can do this without being so direct. You can do it very subtly. We want to understand their kind of background as well, the experience and etc. We want to listen out also, guys, for red flags, right? It's funny because so many times we are concentrating on getting into things and just fucking going straight for the yes and to sell them, convince them. And people miss out the glaring red flags right at the start. One example, I mean, I remember I was reviewing a call for someone in the group, and I was speaking to a guy, and right at the start, he was like, "How are you doing, Diego?" And the guy said, "Yeah, I'm, just trying to get by with the money I have, and blah 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 blah." Right, and he carried on. Now, the red flag was he just said to you, and people don't say this like consciously, I'm going to let the guy know I'm broke. But broke people often tell you subconsciously. And so him saying, yeah, I'm just getting by with the money I have, wasn't picked up on. And so we literally went the whole call not realizing he'd literally told you at the start, this is not going to be a good fit. And so I'm listening out for red flags, because if I hear anything of the sort, I'm pausing and I'm asking about it, right? So if someone said, yeah, I'm just getting by with the money I have, blah, 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 blah. Like, wait a minute, John, what do you mean with the money you do have? You're not on this call potentially wanting to invest in this with no money, are you? Right? And at the same time, guys, you know, you speak to people who bullshit you, right? These people will stop bullshitting you because they realize every time they say something, you pick up on it. If you go along with their bullshit and don't pick up on it, they carry on. Okay. There's a bit of an addendum here as well, guys. So like the data collection and painting the picture essentially can be done by the setter. Someone before you, an SDR, like calling them, having a call with them, like one-to-one on the screen, whatever. And so if that's done, then you don't really need to do this. You know, this is generally for speaking to people who are maybe more cold. They've seen an ad of yours or something. So yeah, you don't need to do this if the SDR setter has done it, because you'll already have those notes with you. Okay, but let's say you do want to do it. This is kind of an example how you would do it, and this is what I do with mine. John, so let's get in. Should we get straight into things? Yes. So John, I'd love it if you could start by giving me what I call a high-level overview of yourself and your business, and just include anything that you feel will be helpful for this call. Right, and then you can even add on a bit of humor on. And by the way, John, a life story, not essential. Right, works. And what you'll find, guys, is like some people give you a fucking really good overview and they give you all of the points you're kind of looking for, whereas some people will be really brief. And the brief people, you need what we have spin-off questions. So it goes into natural, inquisitive questions. So this is where you get the financial understanding, because it's just inquisitive. If they're short, you're like, okay, cool. And how long have you done that? Got it. And like in today's market, obviously I know from where I am, it's a pretty difficult market. How is it affecting you? And so what's kind of what would you say is your profit margin from now compared to then? Right? Just spin off and inquisitive questions that aren't salesy then, right? And what I've put here is, what data points are you looking for? Write them down. So every single one of you, when you are painting the picture of someone, you should have a certain amount of data points that you're looking for from everyone, and you can tick them off. And like if they give you high-level overview and they give you certain points but they don't give you others, then your next questions will be those others, right? So that's how simple it is. And then once we've got a really good understanding of their background and what they do and how much they earn and all that, with no red flags, we tie it off. Say, perfect, John. I think honestly, the picture has well and truly been painted. So let me ask you this, right? So that's how you tie it off. Now we want to mirror the situation. So we've got an understanding of them. Now we want to understand if they understand us. Okay. So we can ask them, let me ask you this. Are you confident on who we are as a company and what we do? Right? Because we don't want to go into this without them really understanding that message. And just a point I want to add here is, too often people will be talking about their company and it becomes very much kind of it sounds pondering, because what happens is you're trying to impress them. Right? That's what we all do naturally. Oh, you want to know about us? Oh, well, we do this and we work with this and it becomes like pondering. You're trying to win them over, and the dynamic kind of changes there from we're the authority to we're trying to impress you. So it can't be like that. So when you say, are you confident in our company and what we do? Really, they should be saying yes, guys, because I've put here, did they watch the VSL, look over the PDF? So if they say yes, you say, oh, perfect. I'm guessing you watched the VSL and read over the PDF. Yes, perfect, John. Love that you actually did your homework. Not everyone does. Okay. Now, If they say no, because not everyone does, right? That some people are fucking lazy. You say, okay, John, well, look, number one, you've disappointed me there because I was hoping you did. But number two, I'll give you a bit of a brief overview for you. So at least you can have an understanding, okay? And this is where I could have put an example here, guys, but you need to be, number one, say this in the correct tonality, so you're not pondering. And number two, it needs to be short, sharp, to the point, 2 to 3 sentences. It needs to be really simple for them to understand who you are, who you help, how you help, and what makes you unique, right? We're X company. We help these people by doing this without doing this. And you may be thinking, John, why are we different to all the others? Well, because of X. Is that clear, John? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Tie it off. Now we want to move into understanding the prospect's needs for this call. Okay. A really cool one that works pretty much most of the time is, so you finish that, they understand, they say, okay, perfect, John. So look, I'm kind of curious here. In your own words, what are you hoping to get from today's call? Right? Oh, let's stay in this call. Let's go back here. Okay. And I've put 3-pointer method. So for those of you who are watching, you don't know, my group, there is something called the close and pay 3-pointer method. And it's where we take questions and we use the 3-pointer to make salesy questions sound non-salesy, and secondly, to get ahead of prospects' answers, right? And the 3 points are precede, where we say something before the question, proceed, where we say something after the question, and reason for asking, which is kind of you ask and then they get an answer and then you give them the reason for asking, right? So they realize you're not stupid. So the 3-pointer here could be precede. You could say, like, for instance, guys, you reach out to someone cold email or cold outreach DMs. So in that sense, you've gone to them. What you'll realize, and you probably even have experienced this, when you say to those guys, what are you hoping to get from today's call? They go, well, I don't know, you reached out to me. And you go, shut the fuck up. If you're experiencing that type of stuff, you need to get ahead of them, right? So you precede and you say, John, I understand we reached out to you, and that changes the dynamic a bit. But in your own words, what are you hoping to get from today's call? Right? So it takes their bullshit answer off the table, and they actually have to think about what they're hoping to get. Right? Now, another way of kind of doing this is if they did watch over the VSL, look over the PDF, they're educated, you could say, perfect, John. So is there anything you're hoping to see or hear today that you didn't already get from the materials we sent over? What this does is kind of does challenge them a bit on whether they did pay attention. And number two, they can be a bit more specific now about some things that were confusing them or some things we want to get clarity on. Okay. There's another option here, and this option can come after you've got this, or it can come kind of before or whatever. And it really does need to be said in the correct way, guys. Everything today should be said in the correct way. But we want to understand, and the reason I do this is because not everyone you speak to is there to be closed today, right? Some people have reasons why they're not going to close today, but they're still interested. And so if I can understand that at the start without being salesy, so instead of going, hey, are you the decision maker? Like, I try not to do those type of things. So if we figure out their kind of intentions, it will give me an understanding of if to go for the close or if to be able to offer other things at the end. So if they're not there to be closed because of X reasons, why would I try and make the close? And why would I go gung-ho for that? It would be better to be able to offer second calls or the close and pay bridge concept, which I'm going to show you all sometime. So you say, John, do you mind if I'm just a bit upfront with you? And they always say yes. You say, perfect. Like, just be transparent, mate. What's an ideal outcome of this call for you? Okay. Now, some people will just go straight into and they'll tell you, right? Sometimes people say, what do you mean? Right. And they don't mean what do you mean, because they know but they're kind of trying to understand why you're asking. That's why. So what you do is you use the 3-pointer and you say, the reason I asked, John, is because some prospects who I speak to, have business partners who can't be there. They're looking into this, but it's kind of for a future budget, or they're speaking to other agencies. And so it's just good to get this out in the open, right? Gives me clarity. So then when they hear all these versions, they then go into their situation. And obviously, guys, we want people to say, well, an ideal outcome is I see everything I want to see today and we get going. In that situation, perfect. We know today we're going for the close, right? But if they say, well, yeah, do you know what? I have some business partners who I'd want to run this by, and it's something we're looking at doing in a few months. There's no point going for the close. There's no point me trying to convince them. I'm looking at ways to add in a step of value before the close, because I'm not going to close them today, right? So that should be apparent to you. Okay, so that's kind of where you're at. And then we tie that off. And we tie that off by saying, okay, John, so let's say they said, I want to understand kind of how you do this, the process, and then also the pricing. So you tie it off by saying, okay, understood, John. I'll make sure I cover the process in depth, and I'll also get into pricing near the end. Okay. But just to add a little point here, guys, this happens with broke people a lot. G's who are wealthy, when you ask them what do you want to get from the call, wealthy people don't say, aren't concerned about the price. Generally, it actually comes down to the product and you, because money doesn't matter to them, but you do get like people saying price, okay? And you do get broke people. They're like, because they know they want to do something like this, but they know it's going to be expensive. And so they say price. I want to know what the price is. The worst thing you can do with these people is be like, well, I don't know if it's a good fit yet. So wait, I'm not going to tell you price for the end. Like, you're just holding it and you're wasting your time. So in those situations, bear this in mind. We tie it off and we say, okay, John, I'll make sure I get into the process, and I'll also, of course, cover price. But before I do, and this is where it comes to setting the intentions. And this is so important, guys. I think everyone can agree on this being important. But why is it important? Because if you don't tell them and set the expectations or your intentions, everything's going to come out of left field for them. I've heard this before, where you don't set intentions on calls. I hear it with prospects in my group, prospects, clients, students, and they go straight into things, start asking questions, and they wonder why the prospect is getting annoyed at them. Well, they're getting annoyed because you're asking fucking tons of questions and you didn't tell them you're going to be asking a lot of questions, right? So this is common sense. If you're going to be asking questions, tell them. So you say, perfect, John, I'll get into that and that, but before I do, let me give you an understanding of how I structure these calls. So they're real simple. I just want to ask you some questions so I can essentially figure out which of our products or possibly packages would make the most sense, right? What I'll do is I'll present that to you on my screen so you can see the step-by-step nature of this. And then honestly, John, by the end of the call, all I'm looking for today is a simple yes or a no. Is that fine with you? Okay, so that's like generally how it can go for most scenarios. When I say strict yes or no, you can actually just say I'm looking for a yes or a no and be quiet. Because it makes them respond. They have to agree to it, right? You can go with a soft one, right? So this is kind of softened approach, which works still really well. You can say, but honestly, John, by the end of the call, all I'm looking for today is a no, this isn't for me, or a yes, let's move on to next steps. Is that fine with you? Right? So it's a softened version, but like, to me, it's so important that we let them understand we're looking for a decision, right? And then also I've put kind of next steps, which I've told you about, and a second call scenario. So you could say I'm looking for a yes or a no to a next call, where we would show you something custom, right? Something like that. Because some people have kind of a two-step procedure. And by the way, if you have a second call, you can do second calls for free. You can do second calls with a deposit, you know, all kind of work. There's pros and cons to each, but today's video is not about that. Okay, so let's go into this main body of script. Okay, guys, this is the part where it becomes like everything from over and above this I can apply to any offer straight away. You can just take that structure and you'll if you don't have that kind of structure, you'll fucking improve your close rate just from implementing that. I've seen it so many times. And it's because prospects love structure. It makes them, they gain trust and they feel safe with it because it's like, oh, obviously these guys know what they're doing. There's a structure and set routine to this. Everyone's dealt with the same way. You know, it's not scattered, which a lot of things are. So here's when we go into main body of script. And all my question, guys, from now are about the solution I'm selling. Okay, and questions surrounding it. There is no predetermined amount of questions. There's no minimal, there's no maximal. However, the framework to understand is there shouldn't be any questions that the prospect thinks is a waste of time, right? Subconsciously, every question you ask should make sense to them, right? Without them having to think. Too often you'll hear people ask questions and the prospect is literally thinking, why the fuck are you asking me that? You know, and then they lose respect for you because you do it over and over. So we want to understand their challenges they're facing, their problems that they're facing that surrounds our solution. And what we want to do is you guys, before you go into kind of creating this for yourself, list out extensively and in detail the challenges that you fix. What do you fix? Because that's what we're selling. We're selling something because it fixes something. And you should know every single thing you fix, right? And once we know that extensively, you might have things that are major, you might have things that are minor, and people might be facing, you know, one or multiple, right there. So you can list them out in detail and ask questions to figure out which one is there, or you can even tell them. You can even fucking say, guys, John, as a company, our solution helps these people. Bum, 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 bum. Do any of those resonate with you? You can do that. It's as simple as that. Like, that's fucking direct. Or you can ask some questions, which I'm going to give you an example of. And what the kind of point I wanted to add here, though, guys, is if the prospect isn't facing any of the things that you kind of fix, it's not a good fit. The setter should have been finding this out, essentially. But you get people who come through, and I hear it when I review calls, people hear an answer, realize like, okay, that's a bit weird. We don't even do that. But try and just fucking change their mind and sell them, you know? So if they don't face any of them, we tell them. We don't waste time. And then if the prospect is facing kind of one of them or multiple of them, generally, guys, because this can change from person to person, but generally, do those problems align with the investment, right? So if you're selling something for 65K, they're facing one problem challenge. Does that challenge equal 65K? Generally, from all the people you speak to, is that the case? You might get the one-off who has a lot of money and like he don't give a shit, and like 65K is nothing. So yeah, but most people, does that challenge equals this amount of money? Because if it doesn't, it's going to be a hard close, isn't it? So you're best off being ahead of them and saying, well, I understand you're facing that. I don't think generally this solution would be the best investment for you. Because you could also look at doing it this way, right? And then also if let's say you do pitch to them, you show them the price and they go, oh my God, Jesus Christ, no, yeah, that's way off. You'd be like, okay, do you understand, John, why before I told you I don't think it'd be the best investment for you, right? They respect the hell out of you. And that's way better than I call it pitching into a black hole. Like, you're just fucking hoping to God. Like, instead of doing that and then bullshitting you and objections and saying, I'll think about it, get ahead of them. And then have them say, yes, you're exactly right. I'm glad you were truthful. Okay. So this is, let me just, I'll explain this bit and then I'll do a second part. So this is kind of how you could ask it. So John, what challenges are you facing that our solution could potentially help you with? Right. And I've put the 3-pointer because, you know, you'll get idiots who go, well, I'm not facing any challenges, because in their mind, it's not a challenge, right? So you'll say, what challenges are you facing that our solution could potentially help you with? And look, challenges might be the wrong word, but you get what I'm saying, right? Again, it takes that off the table and they answer you then properly. You don't go down this slippery fucking slope. Or even more simple and straight to the point. John, what are you like? Let's make this simple. What are you hoping our solution can help you with? Right? Now, if you're selling fucking Facebook ads, right, you want to use the 3-pointer here. If you're selling something basic, if you ask a question like that, they might think you're stupid because it's so obvious. But even though it is obvious, we want to understand it on a deeper level. So you use the 3-pointer, you'd say, John, this might sound stupid, but what exactly are you hoping our solution can help you with? Right? It makes them think a bit deeper because you've taken their stupid answer off the table. And another one, and you can use different ones of these depending on the offer because it works better for some offers. Like, John, what stood out to you in terms of the appeal of having an agency run your Facebook ads? What stood out to you in terms of the appeal of building a call center? You know, so all these are really good first questions because the first question is establishing the foundation. What are they facing? What problems are they facing? And from here, we go up into that kind of pyramid where the pitch is, right? And now I've put an example here, which I'm going to do in part 2, guys. Part 2 coming to a cinema near you.